It is also
What? Can I swap with Karen? Everyone's been talking about education a lot more after this. I wish I could. I did like the governor right after the revenue report. She was like, you guys just support him or what? I was like, damn right. This is the retirement. And they already passed the education budget out of the subsidy.
start call order. Pledge of allegiance. How about Chris?
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I have a couple of additions.
Oh, okay, that's good.
For a request to dispose of surplus property from Manufacturing Technology High School, and the resignation of Tony Mata, the current assistant principal, athletic director at Philomath High School. So those are additions to the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I hear a motion
I shall move
with the?
with the additions.
Addition.
The additions.
Thank
We accept the consent agenda.
Okay, been moved and seconded, now move discussion, resolution 22-2302. I don't have so much of a problem with approving the resolution, except for I kind of have a problem with $140,000 that we're spending on a pool. Coming directly out of the kids' educational fund. When it's called a community pool, the community doesn't help with it. We've tried to get the city to pitch in and help and get this money back in the classrooms, and they have no want or no desire to do that. So it's hard for me to vote in approval on this resolution when we're taking money right out of the classroom and putting in a pool that it benefits some of the kids in the district, but not a lot of the kids in the district. It's open for community in the mornings. You know, if we're gonna open it up to the community, they need to pay for it, whether that be in, you know, the price it costs them to use it, or the community helping to support the pool. It just, you know, we're in tough times in the budget, and then I look at this and, you know, there goes $140,000 out of the classroom. And that's a tough pill for me to swallow. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But, anybody else have any more discussion on?
I would not disagree with you on your opinion. Just know that pool is so deeply embedded in this community and with this school, and I think we do desperately need to find ways to keep it open with more community funds. I'll just leave it at that, but it does offer opportunities for our students, the swim team and lifeguard classes and such, so.
I'm not advocating to close it or anything else. I'm just wanting the point to be made so everybody can hear it, that it takes $140,000 out of the classroom to keep that pool open. And to me, I'm not sure that's the best way to spend the money, is to do that without a little community support and helping to pay for it. So I've said all I'm going to say on it. So.
And I don't think we're not arguing about it. I agree with you.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that's, you know, I understand it. I'm not trying to close it. I know it does good with the Dolphin swim team, and, you know, the lifeguard program, the kids that go over there and learn how to swim, you know, I mean, so it's all good. And then the community uses it, but somehow the community has to pay a little, you know, pick up a little bit more of the financial responsibility of it. And we need to look at that when we're working on our budget and whatnot, and trying to figure out how to make it work. So, all right, so any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. I got you back on the right page here. Request for agenda modifications. I'm gonna have one modification. We are losing 2 board members, 1st of July. We are in the bargaining with the PEA. One of the members leaving the board is on the district team, so we will need a replacement. So we'll put that down here, strategy and discussion number 5, and talk about that for a couple of minutes. Anybody else have any other things for agenda modifications? Okay. Public comment. I have one, Yeah, I have one green card. Beth Edgman, and she wants to talk about the Philomath Academy / budget. Yep.
Well, hello everyone. It's been a couple months since I was here last. So I'm Beth Edgman, school counselor at the Philomath Academy. Parent also in the district. But tonight I'd like to speak about our alternative school, the Philomath Academy, and just continue to advocate for the students that we serve there. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Wells, for being our board liaison. Our staff has really appreciated when you stop by and talk with us, just to learn more about what we do for our students, because we do love to talk about our school and our kids. Last month, our teachers and I were able to attend the Oregon Alternative Education Association Conference in Salem. We sat in on sessions about trauma-responsive practices in alternative education, increasing student engagement, re-engaging disconnected youth, and the evolution of an alternative school. Each of us walked away with new learning, but also confirmation that we're doing good things and we're making a positive difference in the life of our students. And on the right path for making the academy what it was intended to be. I often hear the academy is the online school, and I want to dispel that misconception. When I first started at Philomath High School in 2004, the high school had a class where students worked on packets to get credits. It was an attempt to meet the needs for credit-deficient students or students with behavioral issues in the classroom. But by 2008, that packet work had turned into online work through many different online providers. Online took the place of packets, but it was the same intent, credit recovery, and allowed students to work at their own pace. Fast forward to the academy. We still continue to use an online curriculum like we did in 2008, but we're not an online school. The majority of our students attend in person for a portion of their day. 88% of our K-8 students and 72% of our high school students come in person for one-on-one or small group instruction. The students not coming in have various reasons, from mental health, physical health, living outside the Philomath School District boundaries, or for our high schoolers, some of them work full-time. But these students will often Zoom with their teachers when they need help. I've been reviewing the proposed budget for next year and see there are cuts being made to the academy. The academy is being cut around 40% from our current school year. A big chunk of that is due to our principal retiring and not replacing a principal. And the cuts are going to allow other schools to maintain their current budgets. I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but when I've heard comments that the academy is going to be restructured or absorbed into PHS, and I see that classified staff at the academy are being cut, I do wonder about the district's continued support of alternative education in Philomath. I see in your agenda tonight that you're declaring a reduction in force. I know personally how it feels to be ripped from a position you love, as it happened to me in the beginning of my career in a different school district. I worry about the staff at the academy who have worked really hard to develop relationships with our students and set up an environment that is community-based, focused on personalized learning and social-emotional growth. I fear academy staff will be cut, and then staff from across the district will be piecemeal for a little here or there to cover our classes. This is not an acceptable solution to educating our alternative students. We need teachers who want to be in our school and not forced as part of their contract to spend an hour or two a day in our school. I really appreciate your time and listening to me tonight. I'd like to leave you with 2 emails I received from 2 different high school parents this week, and these were completely unsolicited, but they came at just the right time for our staff to feel thank you, to feel supported about the work we're doing with our students. So the first one, I'm so thankful for you and the teachers there at the Academy. My student is learning skills that will help him succeed in this world, and it carries more meaning because it's not coming from mom. Looking forward to 3 more years of work with you. And the other one is, I know my student has once again thrived since being at Philomath Academy. I've noticed positive changes, so I want to thank you and everyone for being so supportive and having this resource for our differently learning children.
Thank you. Thank you. Reports, presentation from Oregon Natural Resources Education Fund.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie Thompson. I work for Thompson Timber Company here in town. And I'm here today representing the Oregon Natural Resources Education Fund. It's called ONREF. We're a nonprofit fund housed at the Oregon Community Foundation. We were established in 2001 to make grants for sustaining natural resource education programs in Oregon high schools. The grants are intended to establish, expand, improve, and maintain forest-related natural resources education opportunities. Specifically the field of forestry, I'm sure everyone here is familiar, but the goal is to integrate wood products, silviculture, harvesting, fisheries, wildlife, water, soils, recreation, and the management of other forest-related practices of Oregon with career and leadership development in our high schools. I am really happy to be here today representing the Terry Selby Fund. We have different sub-funds to cover the whole state. The Terry Sub-Fund is for Benton County, and over the history of our fund, we have been able to grant over $30,000 to Philomath High School. And today we have another grant that I want to present to Jessica. And it's really a testament of Simon and Jessica and the leadership and the support for forestry and the industry. So today we have a grant, thank you, for $2,400 to purchase equipment such as compasses, chronometers, logger's tape, and other related things for forest management and natural resources classes. So thank you for all your great work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Student government report.
Work with you this week. And she didn't give me anything to say. Okay.
All right, student representative to the board. I'll defer, I think, to Christopher.
Again, unless do you have anything you want to talk about? All right, great. So I reworked some of our language from the last selection process to reflect our discussion to want how to be elected. And I ran that past Jackson and Karen as we discussed, and they both signed off on it. And then I got a little delayed, but sent it off to Mr. Dunham and the ASB leadership. So we should have someone elected for our final June board meeting for the school year. So I apologize, it's taking a little longer than we'd hoped to have someone tonight, but I think we're in a good spot. And again, the intent is to have that student participate in the ASB class. They won't be an official ASB member necessarily, that's not a requirement, but they'll have that class period available to them and the ASB advisor available to them to hopefully have a little more time and support and resources to carry out the duties of the position and make sure they have time to connect with students and read over these sometimes lengthy packets. Yeah. So that's the intent. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that, or if Jackson has anything to add, but I think that's sort of the process we're looking at right now.
Okay. I just have one question. You gonna be here next month? Yeah. Okay. All right, anybody else got question, comments? Okay. Association reports, PEA.
Then encouraging the board to reach a fair contract as soon as possible. I don't have a report.
Read.
I said, other than encouraging the board to reach a fair contract as soon as possible, I have no report.
Oh, okay. All right. OSEA. All right. Moving along, CTE update.
Susan, look at that.
Oh,
Okay, so my role expanded this year as a CT coordinator, so I'm part-time. I do that in afternoons after the morning I teach child development still. So I'd like to start doing CT updates with you every few months, just because we're doing so many cool things and it's important to keep in the loop, especially with all the grants and different purchases and things we're making. It's good for the community to be aware of those. Thank you. So we have 5 approved programs of study at the high school, so sometimes people get confused and they think we have more. And we have other CT classes, but only 5 are approved through the state, so they're recognized by OBE as a program of study. So then we're able to receive Perkins, federal dollars, and then pathway state dollars for those. So our 5 programs: forestry and natural resources, business management, culinary arts, health ops, and industrial engineering systems, which used to be referred to as NANTech. So business management, the whole CV teaches, our students are currently working on the chili cook-off posters, and so they partner with the Philomath Police Department for their public safety chili cook-off. All the students design various posters, they submit to the police department, the community members vote on them, and now we're done with the winner this year. So this is her first draft of the poster that she's working on right now for them. And then since the students have been doing that, now they are designing achievement points for the Corvallis Police Officers Association. That's a great opportunity for them. Recently, a couple years ago, we were able to purchase a vinyl cutter and a heat press. And so Nicole's had a couple of students that created different CT logos to post them around the school and all the CT classrooms, identifying CT and getting us a little bit more PR out there. And then designing signage for the industrial engineering system programs. And then they've done a couple of trial runs making t-shirts, and they'll start expanding those and make t-shirts as a way for students to wear, just promote the programs more. Health occupations taught by Donna Carter. She's been taking her students on tons of field trips and tours and had tons of guest speakers come in. And so she'd like to recognize all these community businesses and partners that either host our students that go out to the field for job shadows and or come into the school to support her program. And then students recently on a field trip to the OSU vet school, and then the guest speakers that come into the school and come into our classroom present work with the students. Forestry has been really busy lately. So they just attended the 2023 Oregon FMRL State Convention, and they took 4th place. And then now very exciting, within that there was multiple students that took first in certain events or placed in the top 5 and top 10. The 2023 Oregon Logging Conference, we placed first in the FMRL Skills Relay. So FMRL is the People Natural Resource Leaders. So every student that takes a forestry class is automatically enrolled in the club, and then certain students then choose to participate in the convention and the conference, logging conference. We recently received a $2,000 sponsorship from Patrick Lumber here in Philomath for the state convention jackets and hoodies that the students wore. Jackson has one on right now to showcase. And so in exchange for them doing a $2,000 sponsor, they requested that we take our students on a tour there. So on Tuesday, the majority of the students that attended the state convention and received a jacket went and toured the mill site and got to see what they do for the community and then what they do there as well. And then as Maddie just presented, we did receive a $2,400 grant award that Simon will be using to purchase weed whackers, the compasses, and logger skates. for students just to start getting more exposure to various sort of equipment and forestry industry. And then the forestry program of study was up for renewal this year. And so every 3 years, we have to submit a new renewal, and it was just approved by voting, and so it's good for the next 3 years, which was exciting. Industrial engineering systems taught by Nick Trainee. So a lot of people refer to this as ManTech, but manufacturing technology is just a course they teach within the program. So he's really trying to push to make the change over to industrial engineering systems. Currently in advanced projects, he has 20 students who are just building custom projects of their choice. All these pictures across the bottom up on the top are current projects that students have done so far this trimester. So they've been super busy. So most of them right now are currently on their 3rd project of the term. And so they really get in there and kind of produce a lot of various projects that get fast. This year, Mr. Trainee became a qualified proxy through the American Welding Society. So he is now able to train students and give them the opportunity to obtain industry standard and recognized qualification in welding. And so then that post-graduation helps them obtain entry-level positions in the welding and welding field. Then continuing partnerships with LBCC by next year through the Industrial Engineering System program. Students should be able to receive 4 college credits through LBCC, and then he's hoping to expand after that. Culinary arts, so Carrie Bennett took over culinary this year. They just partnered with the art department to do a soup and bowl sale. So the art department students made bowls, the culinary arts kids made soup, and they sold them as a combination at lunch on a Friday, and they raised over $300 for community services, which was pretty exciting. And then recently, yesterday actually, took a field trip to the museum to see the exhibit they have right now, how we grow our food. So some of the highlights of this school year as it comes to a closure. We have 15 students that are going to be CT completers. So they took 3 or more credits within one CT program. So they can be a completer of multiple programs, but it has to be 3 credits within one single program. So at graduation, or at honors completion, excuse me, they'll receive a certificate of completion and then a CT cord they'll wear at graduation. And then we had 4 students who attended the NC3 National CT Letter of Intent Signing Day at LBCC. So that's just priority admission into some highly competitive programs. And so these students automatically get enrolled into those programs. So they don't have to apply and wait or be on a wait list. And then all students receive a $200 scholarship to help with their initial book costs. For them, a pretty big deal. This fall, we're hoping to put together a CT student advisory board. So all of our programs right now have advisory boards made up of community members, businesses, retirees, but we'd like to have student representatives, so 1 or 2 students within each program that's a concentrator, that then can have, give the students more of a voice on our purchases, the directions of our programs, like the equipment that they want to see, they want to learn to get their hands on and work with. We had 3 employees, well, Dee Collins, our vice principal, and then Donna Carter and Carrie Bennett attended the APACS conference in Bend recently, and so that would be our regional CT conference. Perkins budget was released. This is a big thing for us now since it's a huge change. Previously, it was a 1-year cycle, so every year we come up with a request and a budget proposal that we would submit to our regional coordinator, Dale Noon. And this year it changed with full integrated guidance, change and update. So now we submit budgets for every 2 years. So 23-24, we received $9,874. Kings Valley, so Philomath receives 1 pot. We split with Kings Valley based on the number of CT classes that were taken per school year. 24-25, we received $10,300. So items requested, we have a little bit left over depending on how we work it. But flash freezer, calibration arms, blood pressure arms, CPR mannequins, assembly tables, those are tables for the IES program. Wireless document cameras, clear touch board, and then a metal vendor for IES as well. Then finally, we have a new CT office workspace in the back of Nicole's room at the high school. And so there's a conference table now and seats for students. It's where I am in the afternoons most days. And so I'd love for you to come check us out here at the high school in the afternoons. It's been nice because students have been able to use it and get in there and it's been good so far. Any questions?
I just wanted to put in there that we also use some of the funds from Measure 98 High School Success
Yes.
to be able to supplement some of the needs of the Perkins program. There's certain things that Carl Perkins cannot fund
There's a lot of strings attached.
that other funds can't. And so we're trying to be thoughtful partners in how we put that together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
I want to say thanks too. It's been really great having Jessica in her role. She's really done a lot for our programs.
Thanks, John. Special Education Advisory Committee.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Brandt. I am a parent and I love being part of SEAC. I'm here to give you a final update of what we've been up to for this year. I know that Susan at the last board meeting mentioned that we helped to organize and host an autism resource event here at the elementary school. In preparation for that, we worked together with our youth transition program at the high school to update some of our SEAC materials at our booth. And it was the students that did this for us, and they did such an amazing job. They made a new poster, new pamphlets for us, and then they surprised us with swag. So we now have SEAC shirts, and we also have a SEAC table covering. So we look very professional when we're out in the community trying to drum up some more interest in being a part of SEAC, and it was really meaningful that that was done by our students. So thank you very much to the youth transition program there at high school. Just to speak briefly about the autism event, because I know Susan already mentioned it, I think it was very much a success. I was talking during a lot of the event, but I counted at least 40 different people come through the doors. And just to make one observation about impact, there were two sets of people who spent nearly the entire 2 hours there at the event. One set was, it was a parent who had an 8th grader who just newly was diagnosed with autism. The other set was parents and grandparents, so multi-generational, navigating the resource event, and they had a 3-year-old, and they were concerned about preschool options. So 2 groups of people at very different locations in their education journey, who it was such a privilege to give them that experience of, coming to one place and getting connected to so many resources that they clearly needed. So thank you so much for letting us have this event at our schools. Thank you to Cynthia Bartuli, who leads us. Thank you, Susan, and all the principals, administrators that came and supported and talked to families. That was really meaningful for them. The youth transition program was there with the booth. We had counseling staff there with sort of a sensory experience, so family could see all the sensory items we have in our schools. And the elementary school librarian was there with a big book display about all our wonderful books that we have in our elementary school. And then she used that the following week when classes came in. So she introduced all those books to all the different classes the following week, which is part of April, right? Which is our Autism Appreciation Month. So that was just all really wonderful. So thank you so much for letting us have that. And then we've done a little planning for next year. We are hoping to ask back Oregon to come in and do an IEP training for our families. So that will just sort of demystify the process for them, give them some tips on how to make the most out of their IEPs. We're going to continue to look for books for our schools, probably focus more on the high school level, like biographies, not autobiographies. And we're hoping to maybe work with our schools to come up with a way to celebrate Special Education Day, which is on December 2nd. And just, it'll look different at different schools, but just to do something small to celebrate not only special education, but the landmark legislation that was signed that created special education. So that's what's on the docket for next year. And do you have any questions?
I just wanted to say, I was talking to someone who lives outside of the district, whose child has autism, and they came to your event, and that was the sort of final straw that made them decide they wanted to bring their child to the Philomath School District. So thank you very much for everything you do.
That's awesome. We did have a number of people come from Albany and Lebanon, and just one more point. there were two sets of parents in different school districts who came up to us and says, I don't think our school district has something like a CIAC. We were really kind of shocked about that, and then it made us super grateful that we do have a CIAC, and we are more resolved to keep coming every month and keep it alive, because there clearly is an importance for parents to be able to have a space where they can come and get support and work collaboratively with school district on issues.
That's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Sorry.
See you later. Okay, superintendent's report.
Get this pulled up here. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I see April and Shelley in the room. Shelley Brown, April McKinney, who I know were two people who were there that aren't necessarily part of the transition team, but are highly connected with the individuals that work with that team, and had parents talking the whole evening to be able to do things. So to acknowledge your presence and thank you for being there.
I think the next step is we need the CX shirts to be printed by the CTE students. Keep it all in-house.
That's the way it works.
We can do it.
That's fine.
So, we received some grant funding tonight in part from, excuse me, the Oregon Natural Resources Education Fund, and quite serendipitously, it's nice to report that the OSU Extension provided some funds to support a couple of different things within the district. The internal courtyard at Philomath Elementary School is, it's gone through different iterations over the course of years, but they're doing an overhaul of that whole interior courtyard. And one of the projects within that is an artist in residence that's being supported by Maxtivity. And they needed some more money to be able to support Maxtivity to do their work. $2,000 was put forward to the project. Also, you'll see below that the Philomath PTO put forward another $3,000 to be able to make sure that that project could continue with students working on the mural project in the courtyard. The other thing that it net us, because we decided to sign an agreement with the Extension Service as a district instead of just a school. And the result of that ended up being $10,000 also to support the raised beds in the botany greenhouses at high school. And I say that because I was asked for money earlier in the year to help with the raised beds and to do the things in that greenhouse. And it's kind of like, I got nothing. There's nothing I can find to help. And so to be able to see what was an original, I think, $2,000 request to me become $10,000 in some helpful support was pretty darn nice to be able to see. So stay tuned as they're finishing up the courtyard there. The other thing is today we, and I say we because we have administrators with us to be the featured speakers at the Philomath Chamber Luncheon today. And I took Steve and Abby and Beth and Mark Henderson and Brian Traylor along with me because I can talk about the boring stuff and they can talk about the real exciting stuff. And the idea with that really is Philomath is a very supportive community of its students and its schools and its teachers. And, as we continue, if we have conversations about budget reductions and state school funding and things like that, the whole presentation was kind of predicated on a silver lining. And the silver lining, when you see that look in the clouds, that look in the clouds comes from the sun being behind. And so what a nice metaphor for being able to take a look at a community of the sun, kind of trying to shine through in support of students and staff. So it was a well-received opportunity. We also had the opportunity, Stephanie, I'll tell you, to share the new brochures from SEAC and from the transition program with the people there in hopes that we may be able to secure some opportunities for students with business representatives who attend from the community. So it was really nice. Our food service update, we continue with our wheels in motion to assume the responsibility for our student nutrition programs. We're happy to say that the food service staff in our kitchens for Blodgett, Clemens, Philomath Elementary, and Philomath Middle Schools are in place. And we had an agreement with our classified union to say the people that were currently in the kitchens, if they wanted to maintain their jobs with in the Philomath School District and work in Philomath schools, because they've been paid by the Corvallis School District for all these years, that we would transition them straight across into those roles. And individuals from these schools said, yes, we'll stay. We're currently in the process of hiring for the high school, and we will make that happen. And I know that was a tough decision for our individuals at the high school that had to do with life situations. And the nice part was being able to say, you have burned no bridges with us. You have to make decisions on what you need to do for your life and your future and where you are in terms of being close to retirement or not, or any of those kinds of things. That we welcome any of those people back with open arms, but understand also that they're making a choice that they need to make. So, but we feel real good about the commitment of individuals to Philomath, and that we've got a good start in being able to continue our move to feed kids. We're also looking at grant funds because we have a hunch that the costs of food are going to exceed what we take in terms of student revenue and the funding that comes from free and reduced and things like that. And so what we want to do, because students have to eat, is we want to be able to make sure that we have any resource we have as a possibility to be able to make sure that we don't go over budget in that area, to be able to make sure that we're not having to pull a lot of money from our general fund to be able to backfill for feeding our students. So I get to go and be at Oregon State University next week for a presentation. And I'm looking forward to it because the discussion will center around the realities of scheduling the required instructional minutes for PE and K-8. And it's interesting that it comes on the heels of, I've just had conversations with the Department of Education this week in trying to take a look at that there has to be a certain number of minutes. And one of the things that I know within the community that we've talked about is we have a strong commitment to arts and music. And so if we get to all the PE minutes, our community is going to be in an uproar because we're getting rid of arts and music. And we know that they're both of value to kids as they grow. And so it's been interesting to have the conversations with the state to say, well, but you can. No, you can't. So the conversations have been good, but what seems to be an easy determination about you just put kids in more spaces is not as easy as it's made out to be. So it'll be nice to go have some fun with university students. Our budget ideas that, and we mentioned this at the chamber meeting today too, is interesting in the newspaper today that schools get windfall. And Jennifer Griffith and I looked at each other and said, okay, where's the windfall? Because they did not announce any change in the state school fund formula. So we're still at a 9.9 billion, although there was conversation about additional revenue. The question becomes, will it be put into the general fund, or will it be special revenue with specific purposes that we have to spend on specific things that may give us another piece of money, but it might not be in that general fund area. So we're hoping that we'll get some information here pretty soon, but we want to hear about that windfall and where that came from. As Lynn said, we're in bargaining with our licensed staff. We have our next two meetings set up for Monday, May 22nd, and the next one is June 1st. And we'll keep moving forward on that. And that was really all I put in terms of my report with everything else that's going on. So questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. We'll move on to Jennifer with the financial report.
We had our first budget meeting last week, and no approval of the budget yet. We still have some work to do. We decided to wait to see what comes through with the state school fund. Like Susan shared, the revenue forecast for Oregon looks great, but we don't have any concrete numbers for the state school fund above the 9.9 billion. So we may just go forward with that unless we hear in the next day or so. Some other positive news for this current year, we got a positive adjustment for last year's state school fund reconciliation from ODE, so that helps a bit. And an additional payment with our high cost disability grant, which helps offset the cost of the high cost students. And then we are receiving the local option equalization grant that comes from the state. There's, I think, 7 districts in the state that have local option levies that are recipients of that equalization grant. So that should come through this month. And we anticipated around 500,000. We'll get a little bit more than that, which will help add to our ending fund balance for the year. And looking at enrollment, we're still holding steady. We actually increased from April to May, which is a bit unusual as the year progresses, but Michelle and I looked at the numbers quite a few times, and that's what came through. So that's good news, and as maybe continue to grow as we go into next year, it'll help us a little bit. Other than that, I don't have any other exciting news to share. Do you have any questions?
Anybody got any questions? All right, thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, and thank you for the resolution.
Okay, moving on to strategy and discussion, enrollment, inter-district transfers.
Yeah, and it's just raising a conversation with the board for consideration. As you know, in our board policy, JBCB, it references, come on, hit the share button. There we go. It says the district may enroll non-resident students, so students from other districts, through an inter-district transfer agreement, through tuition payment, or through court placement. And it talks about the board shall deny, so this is just straight from policy. The piece of it that has caught my attention, and right now it's still kind of in the thought process of we could go 2 different ways. Our policy says by March 30th, the board shall establish the number of student transfer requests into the district and out of the district to which consent will be given for the upcoming school year. If no transfer limit is established by March 30th, then all qualifying students will be admitted. I raised that in terms of this year to be able to ask the question, and I'm asking it of our administrators for consideration as well, is if we're needing to consider a reduction in force to address our budget deficit, will the acceptance of all eligible inter-district transfers create an undue burden on remaining Philomath staff members? So we walk through a budget reduction process, and if we get an incredible influx of students from other districts, then we've got a problem of what could feel like over enrollment. You know, come on, you just cut us and we're seeing more kids. The other side of that says, might the district have time to adequately adjust our student ADM projections as might be needed in a way that will impact our 23-24 funding level? So, Jennifer, can I put you on the spot to talk about providing the estimate and how we made that determination for this year?
In December, we have to provide an estimate for the next year's funding level. We decided that we would estimate a bit lower based on enrollment projections, birth rates, 5 years past. So we thought the kindergarten class might be lower. Classes moving through, it looked like we would be a bit lower. So our estimate for enrollment for 23-24 is about 20 students less than this year. As of right now, with district transfers and the kindergarten enrollment is higher than usually it is this year. We don't know if it will be more or less for next year. We didn't want to estimate high and end up having to pay back state school funds at the end of when they do the reconciliation a year and a half from now. We can change ADM in the fall. They open up a period where you can change your enrollment estimates after the year has started if things are significantly different than what you estimated. So at that point, we can make a change and they will recalculate if there's a significant difference across the state. They won't do it just for one, but there has to be I don't know the percentage, but there has to be a significant change across the whole state for them to recalculate. And then by December, when everybody reports their actual ADM, is when they do the recalculation across the state. So there is chances to change estimates based on enrollment, but it's not an immediate change.
So thank you, I appreciate that. So we know that the funding will eventually catch up if we have more students. And this may be a moot point if we don't get a lot. But when I came back from a meeting the other day and found 10 on my desk, it's kind of like, oh, okay. And so it forced the conversation to be thinking about, at least for a year, might we want to look at that March 30th date in a different sort of a way? So the consideration for discussion would be for an interdistrict transfer, and I took this straight from another district. Annually, the board shall establish the number of student transfer requests into the district and out of the district to which consent will be given. If the number of students seeking consent exceeds the number of spaces, the board will use an equitable lottery selection process. The process will give priority to students based on space who have siblings currently enrolled in the district and attended a public charter school located in the same district. The board may revise the maximum number of students to whom consent will be given at a time other than the annual date established by the board if there are no pending applications for consent. If the board decides not to give consent to a student, the board must provide a written explanation to the student, and decisions regarding transfer requests will be final. The thing with acceptance of students is we can't just randomly say, we want you, we don't want you. We've got 2 students that come in and you're a student with a disability and you're one that isn't, and we can't cherry pick, or you're a boy or you're a girl or your grades are good or not. I mean, we can't make those distinctions to be able to talk about whether or not we accept students. So we either accept all or we put limits on the interdistrict transfers. Now, what I did was just did a quick first cut, so please don't take these numbers to the bank. Would be a possibility to look at something like the non-resident transfer window for the 23-24 school year. It should say is now open. The window will close, and I just suggested June 30th, 2023. Families will be notified of their transfer status no later than August 4th, so that gives us the chance to be able to take a look at the July when there's not very many people here. And if somebody sends their request to a school instead of to the district office, and there's nobody there to get it at the school, if we try and notify any earlier, we're missing out on students who could possibly fall into this category. I just took a low cut from another district to be able to take a look at what might that be. And of course, we wouldn't start fresh. We would look at the kids that we've already got and be able to do that. But the question really became, if we will see, or if we believe we will see a lot of interdistrict transfers, might we want to establish, at least for a year, a window that allows us some flexibility in doing that. As another district cuts and students start moving this way because of cuts there, then the cuts that we have had to make feel worse because the class sizes are larger. And so it was just really saying, and the other side of it could be that we get more students from other districts, and if we're able to do a fall adjustment that is recalculated, we could see the finance sooner. But it's kind of that give and take. So I'm not sold necessarily on one or the other, because we'll get funding eventually, but it was just a way of being able to take a look at what we may want to do in terms of staying open or spending a year to limit our student inter-district transfers. Thoughts, comments, concerns?
So I'm confused, because I thought the first page said that the deadline was March 30th. So this doesn't look like it's gonna help.
Oh, that was another, that's our policy, so we would have to say,
we would have to amend our policy.
we would have to amend our policy to be able to say, instead of March 30th, our policy is now changing, because you can make that change every year to be able to say. And I see it both ways.
Yeah, it just feels kind of bad to make the date actually not to mean anything, we pass it and then just make an amendment and change it.
And I thought about that
Change
too,
it.
but wanted to be able to make sure that we at least engaged in the conversation.
No, I agree. I think we do have to consider what the impact of interdistrict transfers could be. It's the real unknown. Like, if we are potentially reducing force, we don't want to overburden our staff at the fact.
We know, clearly we know, but do you have the numbers for this year? What transfers we have had roughly?
Off the top of my head, I don't, because this has kind of been an emergent over the last couple of weeks, to be able to make a determination. And it came to my attention first when Abby started talking about kindergarten kids that are looking for a different location. We always know, or we typically know, that at the middle school, we'll start getting students in the 6th grade, some from Muddy Creek Charter School, and some of it is they want to participate in outdoor school. And they like what happens here in a middle school space. So we can always anticipate something from there. And you watch the reductions, and to just be totally honest, one of the things that we've seen in the media is a 12-year-old arrested at a middle school near us, a walkout of staff in a middle school near us. And what does that mean in terms of either individuals who get in trouble and choose to migrate to another place, or those individuals and families that are saying, I don't know where I want to put my child to be safe. And so we certainly don't want to, I don't want to negate any child. It's also that spot to look at, when will we be whole in terms of a financial place, and be able to make changes if the numbers come in high. And like I said, I just put it out there more for conversation. When I talked about silver lining at the chamber today, it was really about, even in light of budget reductions, there's incredible things that continue to happen in our schools for kids. Absolutely awesome things. And so it's kind of like, will that continue to happen? I believe it will. It's just kind of let's look at seeing how thoughtful we should be.
Do we have a policy in place for revoking an interdistrict transfer in the case of some severe disciplinary issue?
We don't need to accept students who have been expelled. And we can also set rules on if we have students who are poor attenders. That's typically one that says we're not, if you're not going to come to school, then this isn't a place possibly for you to show up. So there are some things like that.
I'm just wondering, because for example, if a student came in, no history of disciplinary issues, they're, they're an out-of-district student, so they lose transfer, and then they have a major disciplinary issue here that would potentially cause them to be expelled or whatever. Does that then feed into it, or is that just whole part of the expulsion process?
That would be part of the expulsion process, but we could, that's one of the, we'll put you back in your residence.
Okay, thank you.
Or that's the option you'll get, because we have to offer choices.
So do you see, in your professional opinion, an influx of inter-district transfers that could get us in trouble with, the amount of students that we have to staff? Or do you think they'll hold pretty much what it has been?
And that's, yeah.
That's $1 million question.
If my crystal ball could be perfect. Truly, the thing that hit me was walking back in that day after we started to have the conversation with our administrators to be able to see 10 inter-district transfer requests sitting on my desk. And it's like, okay, if we've got 10 now, are we going to continue to get 10 more? Or not? I mean, so there's a possibility with that. I feel like there have been more that I have signed, and some of them from specific schools and situations. But it's hard to tell. And that's one of the things that I can go back and look at too, is where are we now in terms of where we've been with other students. So it's just a tough place, but wanted us also to be able to acknowledge that whatever we do, and even if it's sticking with our current policy, that we just need to be thoughtful about where we are. And I mean, we're late. I get that.
That was going to be my thing, is also, it feels like even with the timeline that you sort of proposed, and I understand that's not set in stone, I feel like that's too late. We need to actually have this information of data cut off like now.
Yep.
To start making decisions.
Because other districts have done that.
August 4th is going to be.
Yeah, other districts, our closest neighbor cut off their inter-district transfer requests, I think, in April. And so they are not accepting anymore. So, yeah, but I agree. It was kind of that late thought of, oh my goodness, what could this mean? And so, if not for this year, it may be something that we consider and look at into the future to be able to track data and continue to make sure we make the right decisions. And just know that we could need to advocate in appropriate ways to find resource that we can to be able to support making sure that we're not so overloaded, if that becomes a reality, and it may not. It's just hard to tell. I wish I could, but.
I guess.
Okay.
No,
go ahead.
I don't know, I guess it's hard to since we don't know what our reduction in force could be, and we don't know what district transfers could be, I feel uncomfortable putting a cap on it right now, just since I feel like I don't have the information to make that decision, just because, we just haven't finished our budget, so we don't actually know where our staffing will be, so it's hard to know what the appropriate level of students would be.
Right. No, and I get that. So that was part of the conversation of just wanting to be able to be honest and put it out on the table in terms of where we are. And if there are some places we can and need to enforce or reinforce in terms of some of our attendance concerns or things like that, that's a place where we can do more of our due diligence there as well. So we can watch for that. So.
Okay.
I just felt like it was swimming in my head and I needed to be able to put it out there. So
Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate the time and the conversation.
Anything else?
No, I think it's something we should follow up on. I think it's definitely something we should have a more specific policy in place in terms of ability to limit Because all of a sudden we got, 20 or 30 applications coming, boom, it's like, that could be huge, especially depending on the levels they come in at.
But even if we get the application, we're not required to accept it. We just have to give them a reason why we don't accept it, correct?
If we set no limit.
Yeah.
We accept.
Okay. Yeah, that's why.
Unless there's something behavioral that's coming in that, like an expulsion that would tell us we can't.
Yeah, unless we limit it, we have to accept it.
Yeah.
That's why it's,
Yeah.
could potentially be very important.
I will keep it on my radar.
Also, for the record, I'm glad this is what we're worried about and not a bunch of students leaving. So,
I agree, because I look at that and I'm going, dang, this
Yeah.
is sweet. But on the other side of it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
yeah.
So, we talk about what keeps me up at night. That's the piece of it, but we'll keep watching.
Yeah.
Yep, I can.
All right, the next thing we're gonna do is forest property, castle, downing, and other options. So we have two maps here. Yeah. The map of the castle, forest, and downing.
Trees in front of us. Okay. Sure, we'll get this whole thing. Just crack one, go to the school.
Yeah, no.
There's no room for more.
All right, Susan's making a copy of paper that goes with it, because I didn't have enough. You guys want another copy down there?
No, we're good.
Okay. I have a couple extra copies if somebody wants to look at them. Okay. Thought this might be an appropriate time just to have a conversation about the forest ground that the district has available to them. They have Castle Forest, which is out on the Kings Valley Highway. I don't know if anybody's familiar where it's at, but where the Ren Community Club is, go just past that on the left, there's a double gate right there that goes up into the Castle Forest that the district uses as an outdoor classroom. And of course, the Downing Forest over by the middle school, which sustained heavy damage this last year from the wind. So we're trying to figure out how we want to deal with that. And so this picture here, so that everybody kind of knows, is the Kings Valley Highway runs along this side right here. This is the Kings Valley Highway on this side by 9, 8, and 7. And it's divided into different sections up there with the roads going around and making that. So, but anyhow, how the district came into having that is Emery Castle, I'll just read this, that Van Decker gave to me. It's a Castle Family Forest. Emery Castle was one of my professors in ag econ at OSU in 1964. He was raised on a starvation farm in Kansas. After serving as a crew member on a B-17 bomber in World War II, he used a GI Bill to attend college at Kansas State. In 54, he came to OSU to lead the ag econ department. His whole career has been working in natural resources with farm families and solving and applying economic analysis to resource problems. When I returned from Vietnam in '67, I went to his class and talked about agriculture and forestry in Vietnam. From 2001 to 2005, I logged 3 times on his 20-acre timberland on the Kings Valley Highway, just cleaning up blow-down trees and improving his timber stand. During this time, we visited about what he planned to do with this land. He then decided to donate an endowed chair to the OSU Ag Econ department. I told him about the Philomath High School forestry program. I took him to the classroom to show him the forestry skills the students were learning. In 2017, Simon Babcock and I made a 10-minute video showing the students doing 10 different forestry skills at his property. I took the video to Emory and Portland with a written plan to buy the property for $20,000, with the remainder of the value being a gift to the high school forestry program. At the deed signing, Emory said he did not need the money, so he will donate the $20,000 also. The property is owned by the Philomath Community Foundation and is designated to be used by the Philomath High School Forestry Program and other school classes. Thank you, Van G. Decker. So that's how the district came to have that property and use it. Is there any questions on any of that? Okay.
So the district technically doesn't own it, but we have use of it.
We have basically lifetime rights to it as long as we have it. When the district no longer uses it, it goes back to the castle family.
I guess, just out of curiosity, what was the reasoning to donate it to the foundation instead of the district?
Probably, I'm guessing for tax purposes,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
I didn't ask me on that part of it, but. And the Philomath Community Foundation handles all kinds of.
Right, yeah.
things, so I'm assuming that it had something to do with that part of it, the legal structure on
Yeah.
things, so. So the other one here is the Downing Forest, and it's kind of hard to see on some of it, but it's a map of the Downing Forest area, with the middle school road going off of Chapel Drive. It's not current, so it doesn't show all the damage to the central forest, which is this part right here, in the center of it. It didn't sustain much damage on the edges of it, but the center of it was just decimated. So what we would like to do as a district with that property right now is unknown. But I feel that we need to do something with it, and the discussion needs to start somewhere as to what we can do with it, what we need to do with it, and everything like that. And I guess my suggestion would be to get together with Simon's peer group that helped him through the years and talk with them, have a sit-down conversation with them and the district, and find out what the best way is to deal with all of the blowdown and how we can clean that up, how we can improve what's left there.
So we haven't done anything with it yet?
We haven't done anything with it. It's still all laid down there, brookwads are up. Some of them are just, you know, it's a terrible looking place right now. There's been an offer from a local logger to come in and clean it up. You know, like I said, we don't know what the district wants to do. I've talked to Van about different things, and he's a small woodlands operator guy, and he now works for B&G Logging and does a lot of stuff like this for them. So I guess what I'm looking for is possibly not a vote, but something from the board that will direct us in the direction of, let's get it cleaned up however we need to do it, and, you know, improve things. So I guess that's all I'm looking for tonight. Just get the conversation started. I'm not looking to award contracts to do logging, have somebody come in there or anything else. I'm just looking to start a conversation with the people involved to get it moving and get it cleaned up, because we need to get it cleaned up.
Was the offer, the one offer to come in, was that they were just gonna do it and, you know, take the wood out and we wouldn't pay anything, or would we have to pay for some of the?
Well,
or
we have to pay for the logging of it, yeah. I don't know I didn't see what the offer was or anything else. I just know that there was a local logger that, you know, kind of threw his name in the hat to see if he could help us with cleaning it up.
Right now, I don't want to spend a lot of money on cleaning up, but.
Well, I don't think it's gonna cost the district anything if we market the logs that are there, I don't see it costing anything, but at the same time, I want to have this other group of people sit down and look at it, and yes, analyze it and everything, and see what the best way is to move forward. But we need to get it done in a timely manner, but at the same time, we need to do it when there's no students around.
And the longer the logs stay down, the less value they're gonna have over time because of rot and.
Yeah. And, if we do nothing, it's one of those things that we inherit the risk of more trees falling at a later date, and if somebody gets injured, then, the liability is on us because we knew there was a risk there and didn't do anything about it. So we need to get something done with it, get it cleaned up and improve that stand. The other part of that is, and we'll discuss this later in the thing here under the school safety and traffic circulation study, I believe, on that Cedar Street extension is going to leave some property to the south of that that's basically of no use to the district. Because it's too small, it's considered kind of wetlands. Is there a possibility of having a small forest there, an outdoor classroom? So I guess what I'm looking for from the board is, go ahead and pursue the options, or, what the board thinks would be the best way to go with it. So I'm open to suggestions or anything that anybody wants to say about it.
Like giving me my marching orders to pull together a meeting of whatever needs to happen.
Well, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
if that's what they decide that they want to do, so.
Yeah, I think that would be,
It's a good first step. And then we can
with your
make a decision.
expertise, I think, with you helping Susan, I think we should probably do that,
Yeah, because I'm not college educated in it. I've been in the field since the early 80s in the timber industry, and learned a lot from the people who are college educated. And so I would like to participate in the conversation,
Yeah.
so.
Anybody
Right.
else interested in participating in the conversation?
I don't know if I could help, but I would be willing, for sure. My father was a scientist for the Forest Service for 30 some odd years. It didn't rub off on me much, but at least have some familiarity.
Yeah, so, we'll look at other options, like the south of the elementary school, and discuss that with these people and get their ideas on whether that would be a good place to even have a forest. Maybe they're gonna say that, nah, it wouldn't be worth it, so. But I don't wanna rule anything out until we have that discussion. Okay, well.
I will march.
Okay. And if somebody wants maps, they're up here, so there's 2 or 3 more up here if somebody wants to look at.
Take these with you or not?
So moving on from that, we'll go to D3 under strategy and discussion, superintendent's evaluation. The board met in executive session tonight and discussed some things, and we're going to continue with that. And I will be in discussions with the superintendent on some things, and we will come back at next month's meeting with the results. Okay. Annual meeting with KBCS. So that has to do with us having a meeting, our board having a meeting with the KBCS board. We try to do it annually, sometimes if we can, twice annually. So we just need to kind of pick some dates and throw it out there to them and see if it works for them.
Is this something you want us at, or?
Yeah, I'm open after July 1st.
I'm happy to do it, I just don't know if that's useful.
No, it's fine. We can wait until after July. It's,
Probably be more beneficial to
Yeah,
meet with the new board.
okay.
Did they have a request at all?
I don't know that they have any dates to us, do they, Sue?
No,
Yeah.
and I can reach out to them,
Yeah, if they have any
and kind of see where they are. And, they're kind of like all of us February, it was like, when is it gonna be over? And now it's like, how did we get to the end of May?
Yeah, more like in August maybe, or?
Well, no, I think they might be okay with having one in the summertime because their board really doesn't change. It's not an elected board, it's an appointed board, and they haven't had much turnover in a number of years, so. I think that most of them are around in the summertime, and if they're not, they'll let us know.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them and ask them about some date possibilities.
Yeah.
And what's on the horizon.
And like, if they do want to meet before July, I'm happy to, I agree with Karen, I feel like it may be more beneficial for them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have to have every board member. I mean, it would be nice if we could, but.
It does work nice if all the board members are there because it shows, that we're interested in having a good working relationship with them, because over the past, it hasn't been such a good working relationship. It's been very strange for a number of years, and now it's going in the right direction, and I'd like to see it keep going in the right direction.
I agree.
All right, well, now you have more marching orders.
All right, get my steps in that way.
Okay. Second reading of policies. We'll start with the ACAR. And
Was this one that we tabled at one point and then brought back, or not? I don't remember.
These were the ARs that we brought back. So
Is
yes.
this the like the working days versus?
I don't see that one in there. If this is the second reading, this was already, it's only gone through the policy committee, correct?
No, they were at the board meeting last month, but it was that definition of days,
Okay.
so I emailed OSBA and I added their recommendation.
Okay.
Recommended definition.
Oh, at the bottom there, I
To
see.
each policy.
Yeah, so the calendar days, school days, work days are all defined at the bottom of the document.
yeah,
Well, almost the bottom.
I'm not very good with this technology, but I know I saved them somewhere, but now I can't find where they're saved at.
I guess, okay, so not to make it even more complicated, but for the definition of school days, it says would include only days when students were in school. But can only sometimes have days where there are students in some schools and not others. And so then would that count as a school day? Like if it's a conference grading day for certain grades?
As long as some students are in school, I would think so. That would be the implication.
A school day is when students are in school, and if they're in school at one school, I would
Okay.
call that a school day.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that something like that would be so complex. There you go.
I guess I just want to make sure that's clear, like, because, if someone's making a complaint or something and they're at a school that doesn't have students, but there are students at another school, they understand how to count those.
Right, and at most, right now, in the way that we've got things set up, it should be no more than like a day's difference in terms of the timing of that, but that's a good point.
Okay, so do I hear a recommendation on the ACAR?
I move to accept it as amended in this document.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Okay, JFCFAR, hazing, harassment, intimidation, menacing, bullying, cyberbullying, teen dating, violence, reporting procedures.
I think it's the same thing, it's just a definition at the bottom of the document of different days. Another one I think we already looked at.
Yeah.
Yo.
So
You gotta work it.
I move that we accept JCCFAR.
I second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Back to the last one here, KLAR. There's one, public complaint procedure.
And again, I think That's all that was why it was tabled. That's, again, the definition of the days.
But one of them said the superintendent or their designee, and the others said just the superintendent.
Step 3.
Huh?
Step 3. It's not where you're reading it. Complainant is dissatisfied with the superintendent's or designee's findings.
Okay.
I mean, I think it says it through that, because if the complaint is against the superintendent,
Yeah.
I think there's somebody else as the designee.
Okay, the other ones just were the superintendent, and they crossed out the designee. Is there a special reason why we're leaving the designee in this one?
I would assume if there was a complaint against the superintendent.
Complaint is dissatisfied with the superintendent's methods. So that's the next step. So
I'm just asking because the other ones had the designee crossed out.
Where, which one is?
It's the board, step 3, the first line right there. If the complainant is dissatisfied with the superintendent's or designee's finding and conclusion.
What's the problem?
It's not crossed out.
Well, on the other policies that we just approved,
For,
it just leaves it at the superintendent. It doesn't give the superintendent the option to have a designee. And I was just wondering why.
sometimes I can go back and look. Sometimes we left that there intentionally,
Yeah.
but I couldn't tell you.
Exactly, and again, we sort of defer back to OSBA's language to start with, so that wasn't one of those that was like a hit or miss, like an optional thing that I just.
Yeah.
call it.
Well,
For example,
the super doesn't have to have a designee. They can make a decision, and this just gives them an option.
On our first one, the ACAR, the reason I think the reason it's crossed out is just specifically in our district, if it's the principal is the subject of the complaint, the superintendent is the only person above that, there wouldn't be a designee, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just sort of the way I would interpret that. Okay.
I mean, it's fine. I was just curious as to what the reasoning was to cross them out in the other ones and leave them in this one.
yeah. I'm reading that as like if we have like an HR director, they would be designee, but since we don't. Then,
Yeah. Well, it doesn't hurt to have it in there. I mean, because the superintendent can just make a
Right,
decision
yeah.
and not defer to a designee.
yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay. So was it moved and seconded?
Not yet.
Okay.
I don't think we would have on this one yet.
Okay.
Were there,
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna move that we accept KLAR
One.
1, sorry, KLAR 1.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
All right. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you. Declaration of reduction in force.
And I would like to make a recommendation based on information from today and from information from the collective bargaining agreement that we not declare a reduction in force this evening. The reason I say that is in the current collective bargaining agreement, it states that for notice, we have to, once the board declares a reduction in force, within 2 working days, we need to be able to notify the association and impacted individuals of the reduction, which means that if the board declared that today, then Monday, we would have to give information to individuals. With the budget situation, we're not in a place right now to be able to identify every individual in that situation. We're also trying to be able to make sure that we aren't just taking taking a look at positions and being able to say, we're just wiping these out and we don't care what a person teaches or what a person does, but we're trying to be judicious and thoughtful about how that plays out. So when Jennifer says things about, we've got this much more money that came in as a result of the 21-22 what do you call it?
Reconciliation.
Thank you, reconciliation, then we're looking at those kinds of things. I made a request this morning to PEA to allow us additional time, up to 30 days, to agree to an MOU that would allow us to, if we declared a reduction in force this evening, to have more time, and I said up to 30 days, to be able to notify individuals of their specific reductions. That was declined. And so because there was no desire to extend that time frame, and we're not in a position to be able to announce to individuals by Monday specifically, my recommendation is that we not declare the reduction this evening.
Ready to? So at this point, we will table that. Okay. Number 3, school safety and traffic circulation study. And that was, we had a meeting with the city council at the high school, discussed a lot of this options and things that are important. And so I'm assuming that that's what this is to.
It was, its intent was on there, and there isn't a need to make a decision, although my hunch is the city might like that. We talked about the items that came up as a result of the safety and traffic circulation, and looked at as a group of city councilors and board members to be able to make some determination about what are things that we can do. And so, for instance, 19th and Applegate continues to be the hue and cry of an awful spot to be. There has been ongoing conversation that had also been an earlier, a much prior conversation of being able to take a look at out here, 16th, and how that's always been a nightmare for the pickup at the elementary school. Because you have to go down to the public works and turn around and come back. And if somebody doesn't want to wait and they park across the street, then the student could jet across the street. And so it hasn't been good for years. It's a narrower street. So we know that if you are looking for a place to park at a concert at the elementary school, and you look to try and park on both sides of the street, if a fire truck comes through, they're going to take the car out. That's just, it's narrow. So for a couple of reasons, that was suggested as a consideration to look at punching through, widening, but also punching through 16th over to Cedar, and being able to take
16th over to 17th.
16th to 17th, excuse me. And what that would do, because the school district is the owner of the property right now that is directly behind the fence of the elementary school playground. So that is district-owned property. We're looking at, could we ever build anything on that with the wetlands as it is, and what might that be able to look like in terms of value of the property. But what that would mean, if the desire is to punch that street through, the school district and school board play a big role, because there needs to be granted access through the district property to be able to make that occur. And the conversations we had were about the city being able to assume the responsibility for costs of the sidewalks, of the parking spaces, things like that. So we know that it would cut potentially a piece of the playground off at PBS. I've talked to Jake Craig, the PE teacher there, about the walking path, to make sure that we're leaving playground and we've got walking path that we can be able to maintain. If that's impacted, that will be put back in the way that it is needed. But it will impact the district in making sure that we either say, yes, we will give access and grant that and designate that piece of property, or we won't.
I guess just one clarification.
Please, because you were there, others were there.
I think we just, to be clear, we're not granting access to district property if we were to do this. We would be giving the property to the city.
Yes.
So the district would no longer own that property. It would belong to the city.
We would sell it.
Districts.
Yep.
Right.
We would sell that segment of it.
It's just, I want to make that
No, I
clear. This is,
appreciate
that's not, we're not
it.
just giving a right of way
No,
to
I
property
appreciate
we
it.
own. We would
I
be
appreciate it.
giving the property to the city.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So, piggyback on that, then my question is, why not just offer to sell that piece of property to the city? If it's really going to leave us with really something that might not even be usable, I'm sure the city doesn't necessarily want to buy that one piece of property, but it's going to be useless.
But, well, again, like Rick was saying earlier, that might be
Potentially.
potentially a
Right.
learning, or a teaching area.
I would hope that we can do something with this piece of property and clean that back up so it's usable, as opposed to have to find a new forest.
Well, and that's what we'll figure out when we have this discussion with, you know, the people who know what to do with that and how to get it rehab back into
Right, yeah.
something productive.
Years.
You know, the problem I had, and I think the number was the value on the land that the district has is like $187,000. And what we're getting back in savings on not having to not having to pay for sidewalks and stuff was, I don't know, maybe got backwards to 69,000, or it's 69,000 what it's worth, and we're getting.
No, you were right.
Okay, I was right the first time. Yeah, 187 roughly is the value of the district property, and we would be getting back about 69 or 70,000 in improvements paid for through the city, which is a little misleading at sometimes, because it's not actually the city that's paying for it. They put in for grants, so it's grant money that's going to be paying for that. So anyhow, it's not really costing the city anything to put the street improvements in there, you know, the sidewalks and that type of thing, because it's being paid for from a grant. So the district is giving up the property below the elementary school, but at the same time, they're getting a street that will accommodate the buses, and we could change the way that the pickup and drop off is and have the buses come from the 17th side through Cedar and up, and put the door right by the school so there's no crossing. The buses aren't in the parking lot, you know.
Yeah, I agree that the road would be beneficial.
Yeah,
I just would like to see a different financial agreement for that piece of property.
okay. And as I would too. I mean, but there's give and take. And so, I mean, yeah, we're giving them a financial benefit to not getting everything we can out of that property, but at the same time, we're getting safety improvements for the students. And that, how can you measure that? I can't measure it, but.
And selling the rest of that property, probably at least initially, I think, is the fact that is it classified a wetland? And then so then you would have to.
Down below there, yeah.
Yeah, down below, so then there's legal things to be able to deal with that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know about the legality of selling that.
To do anything with that, you have to buy credits, and the district doesn't have the money to buy the credits to put anything down there, so it's just gonna be there. I mean, so it's, and I don't think the city is interested in that particular piece down there either, so, at this time.
But they are interested in our other cases.
Oh, yeah, they are, yeah. So,
Thank you, Jessica.
but yeah, I mean, that's what we have to do here is also look at, you know, the discussion the other night that if we put that Cedar extension in, it takes a lot of pressure off of 19th and Applegate and improves the safety down there. So what's that worth? You know, I'll be right honest with you, Karen, I'm with you. I think that the district should be compensated for what they're giving up. But how can you measure the safety aspect in dollars? I don't know that we can.
I mean, clearly, we can't put a dollar amount on the safety of our kids, but also it's benefiting the city as well.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, and for example, using the traffic on 19th at Applegate, while it is a problem because of the school traffic there, it's really a city problem.
No, actually, it's a county problem.
No, you're right, it's a county at 19th. and-
Technically, that's a county road,
True,
so.
true, but like, and so they have an invested interest as well.
Oh, yeah, everybody has a vested interest in it, and it's just what the district wants to do, you know, and.
Well, yeah, I want to be clear, I want kids to get to school safe, and I want it to be safe for all the parents and people dropping off and the school bus drivers. And so I guess the real question is, like you said, how can we make that happen and benefit everyone equally?
But I don't want to run into the problem over there at the middle school where we gave an easement and, you know, took a beating on it. Got absolutely nothing back out of it to give them the easement to start with, and then the discussions were, if you do that, we're gonna lose the stand of trees, and that's exactly what happened, so.
So what, maybe we have a little bargain with our pool.
Well, that's.
I mean, you mentioned the pool earlier, did you read the note I just wrote?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a little give and take there.
Yeah, well, I know in the conversations I've had with the city, they're not interested at all in helping with the pool, so, at this point in time. So I guess we just have to make a decision on what we want to do with that street extension, if we want to allow that to come in there, or if we don't want to allow it to come in there, because the city's looking for our decision tonight, so they can move forward with, you know, plans and drawings and, you know, surveying and all that kind of stuff that needs to be done. Because I don't know, is it their idea, Christopher, to maybe start construction this year?
Well, construction would need to start during the summer.
Well, yeah.
It could start any summer, but it could start, I mean, I don't know. I would defer to the city council liaison to the school board to research those things.
Oh, there's Teresa.
I am here. It's my understanding that we do need to go forward this calendar year so that the funds that are currently utilizing for that street expansion are in this current budget. So this summer, if everything were to align, it's a possibility that that's the reason why we are having meetings at the times we are having them. Because a lot of those grants you mentioned and federal monies that are coming in are not indefinite. It's not an indefinite, sometime we can do that. It's kind of like something that we have to do in a timely manner while the funds are available. So, and that was the issue.
And granted, the district's given up a lot, but we're getting something in return, maybe not financially, but, you know, some safety aspects. So, I mean, we have to weigh that as, you know, and there'll be other things, I think, in the future that, you know, we can maybe bargain a little harder on.
I think this one needs to go through personally.
I'm just still stuck that we're gonna end up with this piece of property back there that is just.
Well, we do nothing with it now.
Well, yeah.
True, but I mean, we've been, in the talks, we had discussions of things that could possibly, I mean, we had not ruled out.
Well, maybe in the future, the public works might want to expand that way and hold the cars,
Yeah,
so.
maybe so.
You know.
Well, I am in support, so.
Okay, well,
And I think there's nothing that stops us, pardon me, maybe
No, that's fine.
to have the conversations about, please help us clarify cost benefit, what if, I think there's still room for pieces.
yeah.
Would you agree, Teresa?
I'm sorry, I was.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was really about, I think that there is still room to engage in the conversation as we get closer to clarity
Right.
of.
Well, the project itself is a 1.4 million, I believe, is that not correct? $1.4 million project. and those funds are available now, which is why.
But I'm thinking about to be able to ask the question of, how much property and how much money, and to be able to, if we chose to go ahead in concept or in theory, and just have those fine-tuned details.
Right.
I think there's room for the fine-tune.
Right,
I want to make sure that I'm not talking out of turn.
Right, well, those numbers, remember the packet we had at our last meeting? The numbers were in that packet, I don't have the packet with me tonight.
I don't either, but that's why I was having a hard time remembering exactly what
Right,
they were.
I can remember the numbers other than 1.4, which stays with me.
Yep.
But those numbers were in the packet as far as the value of that property and the right of way that we're requesting. Is there, oh, Christopher, thank you, Christopher, good for you. So if you can find that,
Well, and I'll go back to that meeting that we had at the high school with the city. And this is basically the first domino in the puzzle, or the piece of the puzzle, however you want to refer to it. Because if they get this done, then they can either work on 19th and Applegate, or get the truck traffic, try to get it off of 19th Street and route it down Chapel to 13th. But there has to be an improvement to that intersection so the trucks can actually make the corner down there. But that would be a huge improvement if we could get the trucks off of 19th Street and get them away from, the early drop off and the pickup in the afternoon, and keep them completely out of the school zone. Being a driver for the last 45 years, I'm in favor of it, which is probably surprising to a lot of people that I work with and have worked with, because they like, you want the trucks off of that? Well, yeah, because I think it improves safety to get them off of there. So that's why I'm in favor of it. But there has to be some other concessions, and that the biggest one is down here at Chapel and 13th. They'll have to improve that intersection so that the trucks can actually make that corner they're coming and going. So, but I'd be willing to entertain a motion as to.
Susan, what do we need in terms of a motion?
I'm thinking it's really about to move forward in concept and, to move forward in finalizing the conversations of where we are. The specific nitty-gritty details. But we're either in favor of moving forward or we're not. And then we can, as long as we can continue to discuss the specifics that either fix themselves in this particular project, or when we get to another piece of the puzzle, it can be, and will you please do, A, B, or C, in terms of being able to make sure we find some reasonable equity in it. If that helps, right?
Well, because I was willing to make the motion, I'm still trying to formulate it in my mind. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, actually, I think we would have to formally issue something to the city to have that right of way that goes through there, so that they could start their process. And once they acquire that right of way, if the district gives the right of way to the city for that project, then the city can start their stuff and do that kind of stuff. So I see the first step that we have to do tonight is to either approve or deny the right of way for that Cedar Street extension from 17th to 16th.
Is that enough?
as far as my understanding, that's exactly what needs to be done.
And my suggestion, just if I could add, would be that, and we get through the logistics and the contracting, if you will, sooner rather than later, so that we can make sure that all those kinks are sort of worked out. And I think that's, that way, it's more about common understanding than anything else.
Okay. I therefore move that we, based on those logistical constraints, except that the right-of-way will be sold to or, negotiated with to the city so that that street project can move forward as soon as possible.
I'll second that.
Okay, right.
I do not have any personal stake in any of this, but I feel like I'm going to abstain from this vote just to avoid any appearance of impropriety.
Well, yeah, since you are on the council.
I mean,
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and is there any further discussion on any of it? So we'll let Susan handle the kind of the negotiations with the city on the finer details to, and if we need to bring it back to the board at a later date for an approval or something, then we can do that, so.
I would love to work with the liaison to the school district and the city council.
Okay. So all those in favor? Okay, motion is approved 3-0 with 1 absent and 1 abstention. Thank you. So, and thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
All right, the 23-24 Philomath School District calendar update.
We think that we got the kinks ironed out. We tried some different things this year in terms of conferencing with half days with students, and it looked like it would put a kink in conferences for some of our schools, but we think we got the details ironed out, and so we think we're good.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go to the meeting closure. Next meeting item, agenda items. The one that probably strikes me the most is if we can get something with KBCS to approve, for an annual sit down with them.
Okay.
And I see that also on here, June 15th, regular board meeting and budget hearing. I was gonna say something about the budget hearing, but it's already on the important dates, so.
Oh, one thing that's not on our important dates, and I just want to confirm that I've got it right. Graduation is Saturday the 10th at 11 a.m., is that correct?
Yes, that's what I read.
Okay.
and Philomath Academy graduation is 14th.
The 14th at 7.
Look at that. Go team.
Yep, and Kings Valley's, I'm hoping, it's the 10th also, but typically it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
They go to the morning, and I can't teleport, so.
I guess just the transition of our student representative, right, just swearing in the next student rep, for the, putting that on the agenda.
Okay. And we will have, I'm assuming, the declaration of reduction in force at that meeting. That's one thing that I can think of.
What was the time on the Philomath Academy graduation?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, same as last year. Okay.
On the 14th.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure I have my calendar.
I have a wedding at 3 o'clock on the 14th.
You don't need to go to a wedding.
Here we go.
My granddaughter, I think I better be there.
Probably.
Okay, anything else? All right, so we will move on to board thanks.
I wanted to thank ONREF, well, the point of the chair, sorry. Just when I did forestry, they were very supportive of all the programs, and it's great to see that continuing. And I also wanted to thank all the CTE work. I think that is a shining star of the Philomath School District and has attracted some attention.
Yes.
So
I've always been a strong proponent of our CTE programs, and I think that it's incredibly important because not every kid needs to go to university.
yes.
That's right.
The flip side, I would say it's graduation season, and Erin is not here tonight because she is in New Orleans for her daughter's college graduation, and so I'm speaking for her as well, and the many thanks we have for these people in this room who helped our daughters, get through high school, middle school, elementary school, and graduate is top honors at their colleges this weekend and last weekend. And so I just appreciate that so much. And, you know, you guys are great. So thank you so much. And that's it.
And you did not educate my daughter, but you did educate me, so.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, I just, of course, want to thank all the staff, teachers, classified, you know, district office staff, everybody that makes this place as nice as it is and as great as it is, because it wouldn't work without any of them. So that always my thing that I have to say on the board things, because I believe in it, that it's very true that if we didn't have everybody working together, it wouldn't be near the place that it is, and people wouldn't want to come here and bring their kids to this district so they could get a good, high-quality education. So anyhow, that's the biggest thing. The sports programs through the spring have been good. And so you can't complain. I don't know what the baseball team, when do they play? Is it Friday?
Tomorrow, we're going to Astoria.
Tomorrow in Astoria for a play-in game for state tournament, so best of luck to them. So, but yeah, it just takes everybody to make it go, and the sports program's good, the academics, you know, the Oregon Cup that they have, you know, Philomath is always way up there in that, so it's great to see that. That not only tells me that they have good sports programs, but the academics that go with it, so.
The arts, all the arts programs as well.
Yeah.
Music and choral.
Yeah,
Band.
but, okay. Jackson, you got anything? No, okay. Moving on, board requests. This must be adjourned.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that, meeting's adjourned.
Thanks for being here.
Have a good one, Jackson.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
I see you guys coming and going out there.
I didn't recognize you.
I'm not sure.